Well, as Donald Trump's former criminal defense lawyer, Cobb, who represented him in the Russia hoax investigation, took to the Sunday morning talk shows to declare his client to be a criminal. Yes, he said it out loud, and we have the video clip. He also said that the indictment against James Comey is not worth the paper it's written on. It will be easily dispatched well before trial. And it was, in his view, it was only filed in order to cover up for Donald Trump's own criminality. And now we have, coming into sharper relief, we have the picture of who's going to be representing James Comey. It's his best friend, Pat Fitzgerald, formerly the hard-nosed, hard-charging prosecutor from the Northern District of Illinois, U.S. attorney there for over a dozen years. He put away dozens of mobsters, 2 governors for corruption, 1 Democrat, 1 Republican. He went after top donors for Obama and put them away. He put a New York Times journalist in jail for not revealing her sources. You can't find a more pugnacious, smarter, more hard-nosed, hard-edged, uncorruptible defense lawyer than Pat Fitzgerald. And it's not because he also worked at the same law firm I used to work at back in the day, working out of the Skadden Arps office in Chicago. When you think about Pat Fitzgerald, think about special counsel Jack Smith, but turbocharged. I mean, the guy was known as Elliot Ness, from the Untouchables with a Harvard law degree. He's legendary. He was a Bush appointee at the time. And there's a Trump connection, because one of the 2 governors he put away in Chicago was Rudy Blagojevich. And that governor was just pardoned by Donald Trump. That was the guy that was selling Senate seats after Obama became the president of the United States. So we have Pat Fitzgerald, right, whose body of work says, I'm one of the top 3 or 4 lawyers doing this kind of defense work in America. And what does he have on the other side? Lindsay Halligan, who was an insurance defense lawyer, never a federal prosecutor, 8 years out of law school, was never a prosecutor at all, who within 48 hours of being magically created into a federal prosecutor, like instant federal prosecutor, just add water. Then they shoved her out to present the Comey indictment to a federal grand jury in a district she's not a member of the bar in a state she's not a member of the bar in front of people who are not her peers in the grand jury. And she barely gets an indictment on not the top count, but the second count. On top of that, she screws up the indictment. Has to sign it because nobody else will sign it. And here's some insider information. The Trump administration did not have to send Lindsay Halligan in there alone. Maine Justice out of Washington could have brought this prosecution, but apparently nobody wanted to sign it. Pam Bondi could have run it out of Washington. Todd Blanche could have run it out of Washington. I don't see their names there. Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. attorney in D.C., could have brought it in D.C. since the alleged perjury or perjurious statements happened in D.C. I don't see them anywhere. They looked around and Lindsay Halligan got the short straw. But she willingly did it. I don't feel sorry for her. So she runs in and gets it. She gets only 14 out of 23 of the grand jurors to approve the counts, meaning she had at least 9 votes against. And we've got all the indictment problems that have been announced. Nobody in her office thought that this indictment was proper. They gave her a memo that said it wasn't proper. So every career prosecutor who looked at the matter of James Comey, from Eric Seibert, who resigned as the U.S. attorney in the Northern District of Virginia, so Lindsay Halligan's predecessor, rather than indict, the memo from the career prosecutors, the fact that no career prosecutors went with her, Lindsay Halligan, to the grand jury, the fact that no one from Maine Justice in Washington went with her. These are all things that plays into the hand of Pat Fitzgerald as he moves eventually soon to dismiss the indictment, not only for its irregularities on its face, like there were 2 indictments, which you're not supposed to have, both signed by Lindsay Halligan, So what was the intention of the grand jury? That would be my first attack. Then motion to dismiss for vindictive prosecution. And every time Donald Trump acts out and says something out loud, that is another piece of evidence to support it. Now, let me show you Ty Cobb. I apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather. Let me show you Ty Cobb on Sunday, Face the Nation, and his comments about his former client. Let's roll it.
From what you've heard of this case, do you think it has enough substance to actually head to trial?
I don't really. As you and Senator Kaine discussed briefly moments ago, that the grand jury rejected one of the counts, the top count actually in the indictment, approved two, but by a very slim margin, 14 out of 23, in a process where there's no defense attorney in the room and the standard is merely probable cause. The next courtroom that this will be assessed in, if it gets to trial, requires unanimity from 12 people, and there will be a vigorous defense. I don't see any way in the world that, Comey will be convicted. And I think there's a good chance because of, the wholly unconstitutional, authoritarian way that this was done, that the case may get tossed out well before trial. The simple themes are rewriting history. Trump wants to rewrite history so that the next generation may not know that he incited a violent insurrection, refused to peacefully transfer the power of the presidency after losing an election, stole classified documents and showed them to friends and guests at Mar-a-Lago, and that he was a criminal. I mean, he's a convicted felon. Anybody involved in those events that offended him, they're in real danger. So you have the rewriting history stuff. The U.S. attorney that he appointed as personal lawyer, Lindsay Halligan. Her role previously in the administration was trying to eliminate the theory that America had slaves at the Smithsonian. She was there to whitewash the Smithsonian. Yeah. And paint America as something that it isn't. I mean, America needs to learn from the mistakes and lessons that we've had. And one of the biggest mistakes that America ever had was reelecting President Trump.
That's not great for the Department of Justice and Donald Trump, for Donald Trump's former lawyer to say, I mean, who knows him better? Like, I know Donald Trump better than anybody. I represented the guy. I represented him, a guy in a case where James Comey was involved on the FBI side. And I'm telling you, he's a criminal. Now, we know the vindictiveness of this president. So I give a lot of credit to Ty Cobb because he could be next on the investigation list, sort of like James Bolton, right? But think about this matchup. Lindsay, I've only been a federal prosecutor for 72 hours, Halligan, against Pat Fitzgerald, okay? He went after the mob and got dozens of convictions. He went after 2 Chicago governors and obtained that. He went after Scooter Libby, who used to be a chief of staff, and got a conviction about a CIA leak. He put a New York Times reporter, Judith Miller, in prison because she wouldn't reveal her source and got a judge to go along with that. He indicted and convicted a major donor of Barack Obama while Barack Obama was running for office, and he brought a case of prosecution against Osama bin Laden before he was killed. That's who James Comey has and who James Comey trusts. And Donald Trump has put his confidence on the slender shoulders of Lindsay, I used to be a fender bender lawyer, Halligan, who obviously got the short straw, but she took it. As I said, I don't feel sorry for her. And if I were her, I guess she didn't really do much research into this. Look at the trail of broken bar licenses behind her, of lawyers that did Donald Trump's bidding and went to jail, got indicted, and or lost their bar licenses. Okay? From Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, Ken Chesborough, just to name 3 right there, Jeffrey Clark, that's 4. The crazy constitutional law professor, John Eastman, that's 5. They didn't get their bar licenses back. They didn't get their lives back. Jenna Ellis, that's 6. Put her in that category. She's like a less smart Jenna Ellis, if that's possible. Yeah. And as soon as Donald Trump's sort of slip on his hold of power happens as we move towards the midterms, these people their gooses are cooked. Absolutely. You've got, just to end the hot take, talk about unstable. You've got Donald Trump making the following social media posts. One, he posted over the weekend that 274 FBI agents were insurrectionists, like a false flag during Jan 6th. That was so bat, you know what, crazy, that Kash Patel had to come out in social media and say that that wasn't true. Then you had Trump posting this is all over the weekend, posting a cartoon of him firing the Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell. And then I thought, if that's not mad as a hatter enough to show his complete lack of tethered to our reality and to the world, he then posts an AI video, which he took down, of him, an AI version of him hawking a magical medical bed, like a late night television commercial, which he reposted. So somebody should wake him up and tell him that some crazy man has gotten control of his social media accounts. Because now if I'm Lindsay Halligan, who's just put her entire reputation and perhaps liberty on the line for bringing this bad faith indictment against James Comey, which should be dismissed well before any trial. I mean, they're going to file a motion to dismiss very, very early, probably on the day of the arraignment, if I know Pat Fitzgerald well. But Lindsay Halligan should be like, this is the guy that I've hitched my wagon to? The guy that is declaring that 274 FBI agents helped start the Jan 6th insurrection that had to be quickly reversed by Kash Patel of all people? Lindsay, if you can hear me, you should run. Don't compare this to the Innocence Project. Let me just so you don't feel sorry for Lindsay Halligan. Let me see if I can round up a interview she gave where she said the reason she joined the Trump team is the reason that she joined the Innocence Project. That's where people are on death row and DNA has to save them. And this is her rationale for joining Donald Trump. Let me play that clip.
God knows what in there, and did God knows what in there. We have no idea. What the FBI did was an appalling display of abuse of power. All documents requested were previously handed over. President Trump and his team painstakingly reviewed every single document at Mar-a-Lago and gave the government what they requested. If they needed any other documents, they could have just asked. It's unprecedented in United States history. The government seems to be out of control. It's plagued with manipulation, corruption, greed, deceit, and fraud.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here on our Monday, Legal AF, to kick off Monday. Lots to talk about this week. We've got many developments at the United States Supreme Court you'll want to follow here. We're waiting on the Lisa Cook decision on the Board of Governors for the Federal Reserve from the Supreme Court. And of course, we're waiting on a number of other decisions and filings as Donald Trump just took an appeal on birthright citizenship to the United States Supreme Court. It's going to be a very active week. I'm glad you're here. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. Help us continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. Slide over to Legal AF, the Substack, and do the exact same thing. And if you can become a paid member for $7 a month, that's what helps keeps this content on the air. So until my next report, hopefully as my laryngitis subsides, I'm Michael Popak. I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.